Can we talk more about, if anybody knows, I know about the CMU structure. What about all these new modular ones you can get? Is that something that contractors like to see on a plan because it's easier and faster to install, or should I avoid them?
The modular ones, the ones that already come pre-built, I forgot there's a company that makes them that they just send them out to your job site, in cubes already, and you have to kind of cut them out. The thing is, if you mess up, you mess up, that's it. There's no way of kind of fixing them. I know there's various brands coming out nowadays, but we used one 2 years ago. It wasn't the greatest party ever. Yes, it was a nightmare that we had to order. We messed up on a part because the homeowner said, like, you know what, I want a kitchen. No, the outlet is not reachable for, speaker. It was a nightmare. We messed up 2 modules and we had to reorder them and wait another 3-4 weeks to get them.
Are those the ones Ewing sells? I forget the brand name.
There's so many brands.
Yeah.
Ever since 2 years ago, since we did our first job with them, we do barbecues here and there when they're simple, like the ones in the pictures when it's just a basic one. We haven't really got into those. They have the structure already done by steel. So there's also a steel structure with the hardy back. Those are the 3 ones that I've seen so far. But I know there's new ones coming out as well. The modules that you could buy in at Lowe's or Home Depot that are already all pre-made. You just have to assemble them.
A lot of times I get, requests for like modular ones, which I don't get involved in the design part or the layout or any of that. But I think ones that are available, there are quite a few different types. Architect or the landscape architect does not get involved in the selection of the appliances. At least I've not been involved in the selection of the appliances. As long as I make sure there's enough room for floor area to be accounted for, that's all I work on.
What about countertop selection and design?
Yeah, on Kelly's one, I helped with the countertop selection, but I didn't. That was mostly because it had to kind of blend in with the rest of the outdoor kitchen. But usually they make the selection and they tell me, okay, this is what we selected. But I don't get into that part.
And that one was it was a bluestone. It was a bluestone type of material. Yeah, that was for the seating area and the fire pit area, but then the countertops for the grill area, those had to be custom made by a countertop fabricator, because they bought a whole big blue slab and then cut all the dimensions in there, because it's best to have them do it. A lot of times they take the big rock to the big shops and they have everything custom made properly. But you're at the job site kind of trying to make it look nice. It's always best to have a fabricator take care of that portion. You're using natural stone or quartz.
Yeah, I'm curious about the quartzite materials outside, yellowing, or how that goes down. I've only used granite or concrete because we know what to expect from those. But I know everybody wants these light colors now.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious.
I heard somewhere about granite. Granite tends to crack in the sun. Quartz is more durable for outdoors. That's what I heard from the fabricator.
You mean quartzite?
Yeah, quartz is more durable for, especially when it does nothing. There's nothing to cover, and the sun's gonna be beaming on it all day. He mentioned it's stronger to use quartz outside than it is to use granite.
Definitely harder.
I had a request for a concrete. It's the first time I did a concrete countertop. But sometimes it has to do with everything matching, and they want the paving and the countertop, everything to be in the same material. So there's one that I'm working on right now that planned, but they want a concrete countertop. I've never done tiled. I know I'd like to try it, but I've never done the tiled countertop, because sometimes you see these existing kitchens are tiled and you want to keep that look, but owners want to go with something that's more modern.
Porcelain tiles with almost zero grout line would be very interesting and economical, right?
I like the look of, even wooden countertops. You get these double, 2-inch wood countertops that you see in indoor kitchens. And I'd like to do something like that. But most projects that I work on, I don't get too into the different components of the kitchen. As long as the planning part is done and the space requirements are met, then the owner gets, everything selected. So my role is
I have the opposite. I have the opposite life.
Yeah. I guess that's the difference between like designers and like landscape architects, because I would like to get more into like individual material selection. Then as soon as the planning part is done, they're like, okay, we'll work with the contractor. Contractor does all the like bringing the samples. So they have these, usually ask me, okay, which one do you like? This one or this one? And then I tell them like the countertop for the pavilion, which one I liked. Then after that, I don't know what product it is or where the supplier is.
Wow.
I don't get into that part.
That makes a big difference. So that must be disappointing for you. And sometimes when you're like, oh, what did they do? Right? When you see it finished, you're like, oh.
No, sometimes it's disappointing, but sometimes I really like it. Like when I go to the site, I'm like, wow, I didn't expect it to look like that, you know?
Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, that part is nice. So I think Grace and Kathy joined. Kathy Brenner.
Oh, that's me. I'm the one blabbing here.
Oh, sorry, Kathy Hansen.
I have plenty of questions.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't have any questions. This is Kathy Hansen. So.
Oh, we've got two. Okay.
What
about venting? How about I know there's back and forth about whether you need a vent over the top. I guess it matters which city we're talking about and whether it's solid cover or not.
I haven't done like a completely covered, other than the pavilion. I haven't worked on anything that had additional venting requirements. Have you worked on any?
No, I have not. Although I did work on one where we had two grills, one of those Argentinian open flame grills. That was exciting to have two enormous open fire things 6 feet from the house. I haven't done a vent.
Yeah, I know that if you're in a wildlife interface, urban interface, WUI zone, you can't have wood fireplaces. I actually forgot, I worked on a project in San Bruno where, San Bruno is very picky about fire as well as steep slope. And this fireplace it's not an outdoor kitchen, but the fireplace had to be changed altogether. So it had to be a concrete. We had to size it down, and also they asked for the manufacturer's installation guidelines, because you have to make sure that if it's in a windy, slopey site, you have to make sure that it's installed well.
Are there ever any city requirements about clearances between, for example, the grill and flammable components? Especially, I wonder about the ceilings or roofs of arbors and things.
Those are typical building heights. You're talking about the heights, right?
Yeah, or just, clearances from, like, if you had wood posts or something on an overhead arbor. Are there any? I'm just curious if there are any requirements from the cities just to avoid, potential flammability problems.
I've never come across that, except for they ask for it to be fire rated. Even if you use wood, it has to be fire rated or something. I know that I worked on one job in Burlingame where the deck had to be fire rated. So they used wood for the deck, and that had to be, you get these fire retardant paints. So we had to specify, because I did an addition to the deck. So the addition had to be painted with the same fire retardant paint, and the contractor had to kind of match the manufacturer for the original deck. That would be something for the city that you work in, because each of the cities have different requirements.
What have you found about plumbing? So I've run into issues with requirements for sewage, right? So we've always just done cold water to a sink. Can you talk a little bit about that? The sink is a little bit more complicated than most people would think, I think.
Well, actually, I wasn't too involved because this was a general contractor who worked on this part. The permit for the water line, the electric line, all that was done by the general contractor. The only thing that I had to do was I had to make sure that all the electrical outlets were waterproof. There was no, they have these new energy codes for electrical. So all those codes had to be met.
So you had hot water going to it? Hot water, cold water?
Yeah, they had an ice maker, they had a dishwasher, they had
a dishwasher. Yeah, so this is a kitchen outside. I don't normally do those. Usually it's a grill, refrigerator,
Okay.
sink. And people are
those are like-
surprised that the sink costs so much. They think it's just a hole in the countertop. They don't realize the water has to go somewhere. And if it's
Okay.
got food in it, the
Yeah.
city doesn't like that.
Yeah, actually, I had to show the sewer line. I don't have the drawings to it, but those had to be located on the drawing, where the existing sewer line is so that we connect to that.
And then the other thing is these outdoor fans. I really like to use them. Do you think that they need to be under full cover? Or I've heard different things from different electricians about installing them under a pergola, for example, even if they're outdoor rated, their
Mhm.
longevity.
I've never used an outdoor fan under a pergola. I don't know about how safe it is because it has to be strong enough to support the fan, right?
Oh, they put a block of wood. It's mounted right on a beam. And usually we will cover it with plywood, just the fan part that's stained
Okay.
to match the pergola. But it's still going to get very wet in the winter. And the jury is out because I put a lot under solid cover, but I
Mhm.
just put a few under pergolas because people wanted them. And they're not
Okay.
expensive. They're less than $200. So if you have to replace it every 2 years, it's not really that big a deal. So I went for it and didn't fight them, but I'm curious, and I wondered if anybody else had experience with how that goes over time.
Yeah, actually, I noticed it's getting hotter and hotter in the summers, and even with a pergola that's not fully covered. What I get requests for is they have this shed type structure, and they want to completely open it up because it's not usable because it's closed shed, and they want to open up the views. So when you do that, and they want to remove certain members, like they want to take off a couple of beams and a couple of columns. Then when you do that, I always refer them to a structural engineer because I don't want to say that, okay, it's safe to take off these columns. But now I think some of the contractors, like one of the projects I'm working on right now, contractor has said, oh, it's okay to remove the beams altogether. But I would refer to a structural engineer, have them decide. Even fans, have you worked on these? Are they in places that are
Windy? I have one in my mind right now because I just went to it this morning. It's very protected. It's a very sheltered, it's a tall house and a hill. It's very protected. So I'm not too worried about it. But I do have one coming up that's in a windier area. And I think I'm going to talk them out of the fan. So I think it's just going to be too weird. But they like it. The other thing a fan does, which you might not immediately think of, is it gets rid of the gnats. If you have circling gnats, that little bit of air circulation really makes the space more comfortable.
Yeah.
So just thinking on what my rules are going to be for that.
Yeah, I think I got a lot of complaints about insects. So like on this job, they had too many insects because the whole place is surrounded by oak trees.
Oh, so you get the moths, the caterpillars.
Yeah, they had like this infestation of caterpillars, and I wasn't sure what to tell them because the oak trees are like completely surrounding the space. And I think Armando worked on it while it was
it was horrible.
Yeah, it was. I finished my part by the time it got fully infested. So did you do anything about the insects?
We would just put hoodies and huge sombreros to make sure they don't land on us. It was a whole month. It was a good 2.5 months we were there. It was constant droppings of caterpillars.
Yeah, and they also killed some of the plants, right?
Yeah, those caterpillars would come down and eat all those plants.
And the grass had to be replaced.
Yeah, because the thing that I learned later on, is all those caterpillars also mess with the pH in the soil, and that's what also makes soil structure wasn't too well after. And that's why that mow-free lawn died. And we had to replace it.
Yeah, it looks quite nice now.
Yeah, we replaced it once and it was dying, and then luckily the winter came in and brought it back up.
On my recent jobs, I've included lighting as well. because I would like to get more into that part, see how it looks, because I think it makes a difference when you not just do the planting and paving, but when you also include irrigation and lighting as part of your scope of work,
Mhm.
because that's like the complete product. So you have more control over how it looks. And so usually I work with lighting sub-consultants, but a lot of times I spec the lighting myself.
What are they using? Are they FX Luminaire or Vista, or do they?
Yeah, I've used FX Luminaire and Vista. I like Vega a lot because they're like very clean and modern looking. If it's something that requires like a mapping of the lights, I send it out to a company that does that. And, they can send it back and tell me, okay, you've used too many lights or too few lights. Prefer to use fewer lights, a higher quality. So, sometimes in the landscape, it's better to hide the lighting and to kind of just like the product. So I think the quality of light is pretty important.
I've been very impressed with WAC for their accent lighting. Have you tried them?
No, I've seen them, but I've not tried them. I think I use them for step lighting.
Yeah, nice step lights. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they have on the last, I did a concrete steps going down to a second level, and the city said it had to be, I didn't know step lighting had to also have those, bug ratings, the glare ratings. So they had, WAC had one of those Bluebird products.
Do you do every other stair when you do stairways?
So far for decks, I've done every stair. Just because the city has said, okay, all the stairs need lighting. So I'm like, okay, if it's a safety thing, I'll add lighting to every step.
Well, I'll just tell you the thing that I love about, I want everybody to use these. They're so great. The WAC fixtures, you can on the fixture, each individual fixture, dim it or change the spread. So you put in a pretty big accent light on a baby tree, it looks ridiculous, but you can dim it down and change the angle. And then you can come back in 2 years and increase the lumens and the width. It's fantastic.
Oh, wow. Nice. I'd like to get into more complex lighting. Like in this case, they had like 8 zones or something. For each zone could be dimmable and on and off at different times of the day. But I've never worked on a lighting plan that's so complex. With all these different zones.
Yeah.
Armando and I worked on the first job, and I think he did. Did you do the lighting on that?
We did the lighting at Braemar. We did the light. Yeah,
Braemar?
we've been basically doing the light.
I did a lighting plan because it's kind of strange because some cities ask for a lighting plan.
I think that was the Hillsborough one. The Hillsborough project asked for the lighting one.
Yeah, Hillsborough asks for a lighting plan. Usually now they're only concerned about the front yard. They don't care about the backyard. Well, if anybody else, if nobody has questions, that's it for today.